So I'm going to go ahead and run Access. And again, I'm on page 744 in the book. And what I'm going to do is just use a blank database. And I'm going to change the name here to Bank. You can click Create. Next. The database opens up and it has a blank table. So I'm going to go ahead and add some field names to this particular table. The first one, if I click this tiny drop-down triangle, I can select short text. And I'll type in branch ID. Then I'll go to the next one and select short text and type in manager. Then I'll click on the little drop down triangle again and I will select short text. And this one is called location. And there's some data I'm going to enter in figure 2.8 on page 744. I'm going to enter the branch ID code of B10. And I'll press the Tab key to move left to right on the field titles. Location is Uptown. If I press Tab again and again, I can enter B20. Esposito is the manager. Eastern is the location. And I'll press Tab twice again. Branch ID is B30. And location is Western. And B40. Sing is the southern location. And I'll press Tab again and one more time. And B50. It says to put in your last name, but you can put whatever you want. I'm just going to put Smith. And location is campus. And I see I have a misspelling on Sing, so I'm going to click back on that field and add an H. So once you get done, you should have 5 new records. And as we walk through creating this database, it's a fairly sensitive activity because we're going to link all the tables we're going to create today and make them relational, and if we mess up on the data entry, we may have a little trouble linking them together later. So try to step through with me carefully. We may or may not have to troubleshoot. We'll see what happens. And this particular table is called branch. So when you first click save, it should prompt you to save the name of the table. once you get these records added in, on page 745, I'm going to click View. And this particular row here with the automatic unique identifier, we are going to delete. We're going to get rid of that. ID auto number. So if I click the delete rows option, it's going to ask me if I want to delete this permanently, and I'm going to say yes. Now it warns me that this field is also the primary key. And of course the primary key is very important because it uniquely identifies us, kind of like our Social Security does in a government database. But I'm going to click yes to delete it. Then I'm going to click the primary key for branch ID and turn that into the primary key field. Over on page 746, we will alter the field size box for branch ID to 5. Then I'm going to click the manager field name, and we don't need 255 characters, so I'm going to change that to 30. In the caption box, I'm going to type in manager's name. Then I'm going to click location. And again, I'm going to change the field size to 30. And the caption to branch location. I'm going to press save. Then it asks me that some data may be lost, so I get an error message. And that's because we shortened the field size. So if we had a name that was greater than 30 characters and we said yes to this, we would cut that name off. But in this case, it's okay. So we're going to say yes. And then I'm going to click this empty space here. And I'm going to type in start date. And I'll press the tab key. And I want a type of date and time. And the format is that first option. There's a drop down box. And I'm going to select short date. And I will save again. Now they do have a caption, or I'm sorry, no, not a caption. This is a description. The description's right here. And the description is, this is the date the manager started working at this location. It does have a caption, which is manager's start date. I'm going to save one more time. And then I'm going to switch to sheet view. And we can do a couple of things here. One, notice that the captions now display here at the top instead of the fields' names. If I hover the mouse in between the two fields until I see that black vertical line with two arrows facing away from each other, it's kind of hard to get it to come up. I can double click and it will increase the name so that I can see the entire title there. And I can do the same here and the same here. Whoops. You got to make sure your mouse doesn't move at all. It's pretty tricky. Then I can put in the start dates. 12/3/2014. And I'll click in the field below it. 6/18/2013. 3/13/2011. 9/15/2014. 10/11/2016. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 records. And you do want to make sure that the branch IDs are the same as what's up here, B10, B20. If these are off, it does cause problems later when we're linking our stuff together. All right. Moving forward. On page 759. We're going to import some data into tables. And this is a popular method used by databases. We will import information into our databases. So I'm going to click the External Data tab. And then there's a Excel icon with an arrow pointed upwards. I'm going to click that. And we need to click Browse and locate those files. Now, the one I'm looking for is Customers. Which is a Excel spreadsheet. And I'll click Open. And you'll see the path here now changes to show that you are going to import that customer spreadsheet. We're going to leave this setting alone. Import the source data into a new table in the current database. And then I'll click OK. The next thing the import wizard asks is, does the first row contain the column headings? And you can see that it does. Now if I turn this off, it would turn the column headings into a record, and we don't want that. So we're going to leave that turned on and then click Next. The first field, we're going to change the indexing to yes with no duplicates. And click Next again. We don't want access to add the primary key because we already have a primary key. So we're going to do choose my own primary key and access guesses, essentially that first left column. We're going to say that's good, yes. and I'll click Next. And it's going to give the imported table the name of customers. And I'm going to click Finish. And when I see this screen, I do not need to save the import steps, so I'll just click Close. So now I have a customers table here. We're going to do another import. I'm going to click the Access import. And again, I need to find the location. So I'll click Browse. And the file that you downloaded is A02H2 accounts.accdb. You may have to browse to your H drive to locate it and then go into your folder for the class and go to Access. And I'll click Open. And it says, okay, we're going to import tables or queries, etc. from this database. So I say OK. Now, this database only has one thing, a table. There's no queries, forms, reports, macros, or modules. That's not normal. It's typical to see a database full of information, all kinds of tables and other things. But in this case, I'm just going to select Accounts and click OK. And I do not need to save the import steps, so I'll click Close. So now I've got Accounts, the branch table we created, and the customer table. Well, as you can imagine, when you import data from other sources, many times the fields are not correct and we need to adjust and make changes to these fields in the table design. So what we're going to do starts on page 761 and begins with the accounts table, and I will open that by double-clicking it. And I'm going to switch by clicking the Home tab and then View to Design View. And we're going to get fairly specific here. The field name currently for account ID is kind of confusing, so we're going to change that to account ID. We're going to change the field size from integer to long integer, which basically means as we get more customers in the database, this will allow us to have account IDs that can actually get fairly large. So we want to account for any possible new customers in the future. In the caption, I will put account ID. Then I'm going to click on the CID field, and I'm going to change this one to customer ID. And once again, I'm going to change the field size to long integer. And I will give it a caption of customer ID. So far, so good. If I click on the BID field, we're going to change this to branch ID. And actually, I should stay in branch ID because I need to make some changes there. For branch ID, we want to change the field size to 5. Then I can go to balance. This one, I'm going to change the data type to currency because it's money. Open date, I will change to date time using the drop down box. And format, that very first field in the little table, I'll click the drop down triangle here and I will select short date. I'm going to make a caption for this as well. The most important date we want to know of is when the account was open. In reality, if this was a bank, there would be many more fields: close date, activity date, all kinds of stuff. Okay. So they want us to change back to sheet view. You may have to click the Home tab to see that option. And when you try to do it, it says, well, first of all, you have to save this table. Do you want to do that? I'm going to say yes. It says some data may be lost. Remember, we shrunk some of those fields smaller. That's okay. We know we didn't lose any data. But in a real import scenario with a database, if somebody says, hey, we want you to shrink that field down to 5 characters, and you say, well, how long have you been running that database? Oh, 7 years. Is there any chance some of those records could be greater than 5 characters? We don't really know. The answer is we're not shrinking that field size because we're going to delete critical customer data. And you can't do that, right? I mean, if you had an account ID and the database manager shrunk it at the bank, you would no longer be associated with your account anymore. Your cards would stop working and everything. So it's really critical that you go by the rules. So if there's a lot of data in the database and it's older, and somebody says we're going to start shrinking fields, say not until we check everything. We really want to make sure before we do that. All right. Let's go to the customers table. We've got a little bit of work we're going to do in that, and I'm on page 762, letter O. I'll start by switching to design view, and I want the customer ID to match, so I'm going to type in customer ID. And down in field size, I need to change that to long integer. It has to match the accounts table precisely. In caption, I will type customer space ID. All right. So that one's the most important in this table because that's the linking field between tables. All right, so I'm going to go to first name, and I'm going to change the field size to 20. And then I'm going to go to last name. Click on last name. Change the field size to 20. Next, I'm going to click street and change the field size to 20. 20 to me is too limiting. If this was a real database, I would go much longer because you never really know. You might have a street size name that has more than 20 characters. City, we're going to change that to 20 as well. State, we're going to change that to 2. Now zip, we're going to change the data type to short text. And they want us to change the field size to 15, which I think is a really bad idea for the zip code. Why do you think that? Why would I think it's a bad idea to change the zip code to 15 characters? The actual zip code maximum length is 9 characters. So although we're used to the 5-digit zip codes, they're actually 9 characters, but most of us leave off the last 4 digits. It would be best to have exactly what you need. You could argue that the person who's designing this database is anticipating zip codes getting extended. I highly doubt it. We did create a few new zip codes, but not too many over recent years. So it's not very likely. And that gives us room for error, which is not a good thing. But that's what they said to do. It's one of those situations, where you get a boss that says, I want 15 characters in the zip code, and that's what you're going to do. Okay, you say so. Now, phone is a type of number, but we're going to change that to short text. And we are also changing the field size for this one to, again, an odd number, 15. Seems kind of odd to me. What do you think? What's the maximum size for a phone number right now? If you are working with a foreign country and making a phone call, it just so happens when we make a long distance call to somewhere in the United States, our country code is 1. But if you make a call to another country, it could be something like 099. And when you make a call to another country, you have to use the plus symbol. Okay, so that's 4 extra characters right there added on. So they're doing 15 because really they do need to take into account numbers that are longer than United States numbers. So we're going to leave 15 there. Now, here's the thing about all that. I just said that, and then this feature is very cool. We're going to use the input mask, but it says save the table first. Okay, I'm going to save it. We're not really going to lose data, so I'll click yes. I'm going to use the phone number input mask. So if you look at that, basically what it's saying is we will only accept United States phone numbers. Right? Because we're going to use an input mask that will basically, when you type in the numbers, it'll automatically put in the parens and the dash symbol for you. So I'm going to click finish. And was there a caption? I don't think there was. Nope. I'm going to click save. And they want us to then go to data sheet view for the customers table, page 763. And we're going to add a customer. So at the very bottom of the table there is an asterisk. That means new record, basically. I'm going to click and add 30011. And let's see, what does it say to do? Use your own personal information. You can put whatever you want in. I'm going to put in Steve Jobs. I notice I can't see all the information here, so I'm going to use that trick. I'm going to move the mouse in between street and city and double click. And I think I'll do the same thing between city and state. The other ones look fine. I'm going to put in 8 infinite loop drive. Oh, look, it won't let me. I exceeded 20 characters. All right, well, I guess it'll be DR then. City, Cupertino. State, California. Zip 90210. I don't know the real zip code for Cupertino, so that's the only California zip I know, so I guess it'll have to do. And I'm just going to make up a number, 555 555 1212. Next, we're going to go back to the accounts. Oh, actually, did I leave? I didn't put a date in, did I? Nope, I got everything there. Okay, sorry. I'm going to go back to accounts. And I'm going to go down to the bottom. And a new account ID is going to be added, 1024. I'll press Tab. 30011 is the customer ID. And Tab again. B50 is the branch ID. And the balance is $14,005. And I'll press Tab again. And this is actually in the book. The open date is 8/7/2018. So we got Steve Jobs living on an infinite loop, opening bank accounts a year from now in the future. Sounds about right. Okay, I'm going to add 2 more accounts. 1025, customer ID 30006, branch ID B40, balance $11,010. And I don't have to type in the dollar symbol or anything because it's formatted as currency. So I just press Tab. 3/13/2018. Next one, account ID 1026. 30007. I'll press Tab again. Bank location B20, branch ID, balance $7,400. Open date 5/1/2018. and I'll press enter. So now I've created 3 additional records. So I'm going to close the accounts table and the customers table, and finally the branch table. It wants to know if we want to save the layout of the changes. I'm going to say yes. And here's the fun part. This determines whether or not we created our tables and entered the data and formatted the fields correctly. If we made a mistake, we won't be able to do the joins, and we might have to do a little troubleshooting. I'm going to go to Database Tools, and I'm going to click Relationships. I will add, and I could click Add down here, or I can simply double click. And I'm going to move the show table to the side so you can see them appear here. Accounts, branch, and customers. And then I'm going to click Close. And I'm going to do a little bit of reorganizing. I'm going to move customers here. I think I'll put accounts down here and maybe branch here. Actually, they have it the other way around in the book. So I'm going to put accounts here and branch right there. Do you have to do that? Not really, but it makes it easier to see the lines that you're going to create as you link things together. So these are currently unlinked. So somebody could create a new account here and type in a random customer ID. And somebody could come over here and type a different customer and use the same customer ID, and we would have 2 different records with the same customer ID. So we can't do that. So we're going to link these together. If I click the customer ID and drag it to the accounts table, so I'm holding down the left mouse button and I release, it's going to ask me, do you want to link customers and accounts using the customer ID field? I'm going to say yes to that, but before I do, I'm going to click Enforce Referential Integrity and Cascade Update Related Fields. And that basically means if we create a new customer here, the ID will be updated over here as well. Now if I did this right when I click Create, it should work. Well, I got lucky. I got one right. I've got one more I have to do. It's possible you may see an error message. So I've got a one-to-many relationship here. I've got one customer here, but one customer can have many accounts with many balances and many open dates. I'm going to grab branch ID and drag it to the accounts table. And again, it'll ask me if I want to link these two, and enforce referential integrity and cascade. Once again. And I will click Create. And it did work. Some things you can look for if you have a problem. If I open the accounts table and go back to view, the trick is to make sure that, for example, account ID, the name is exactly the same in both your tables, and the data type of long integer is the same, and the same goes for customer ID here. And then in branch we just double check. And finally, customers. We can go back to view and just confirm that customer ID is a type of number and long integer. If you then close all your tables again and try again, and you still get an error when you try to create this line, it could be, if I go to branch, for example, one of the mistakes I've made when previously doing this, I forgot to create the record for branch ID B40. And we have to have this branch ID in order to link it to records in the customer table. Does that make sense? If the branch B40 doesn't exist and the customer table says yes it does, you see the dispute? Right? So we have to make sure it coincides. Because here in customers, wrong one, accounts I should say, there are some tables in here with B40. And typos can get you too. In the branch, if you put B44 here accidentally, same thing would happen. Sometimes the error message will tell you the problem is in the accounts table, but in reality, it's really in the branch table, because we have a typo here, for example. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close branch for right now, and I'm going to close customers. And what they want us to do is do a test of referential integrity. And that's not too awful difficult. I'm going to create a new record here. Account ID 1027. Customer ID 30003. Branch B60. Balance 4,000. And open date 4/13/2018. I'm going to press enter. And I get a message. You cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in table branch. The messages aren't the greatest, but it's basically telling me the branch ID I gave doesn't exist. B60, it doesn't exist. So I can change this to B50, and then I would be allowed to save this record. Now I can save it. Okay? And I'm going to click save one more time. I'm going to go to page 778, hands-on exercises. And I think I'll close accounts and relationships as well. And I want to say yes to save the relationships, very important. I'm going to go to the Create tab once again and do the Query Wizard. And I'm going to use the Simple Query Wizard and click OK. Now it's selected the table accounts by default, which is good because that's the one we want. I'm going to add the account ID field by clicking the greater than caret. And then I'm going to add customer ID, branch ID, and finally balance. And then next. And I'm going to leave the option detail. Shows every field of every record. and I'll click Finish. Now the query here that I just created, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can rename it. Let's see if it'll let me rename it while it's open. Nope. So I'm going to close that query, and I will right click and rename it Accounts from Campus Branch and press Enter. But it was showing me all the accounts, so I'm going to right click it and head into Design View, and I'm going to make some changes. For account ID, I will select Sort Ascending. In branch ID, I'm going to select Criteria and type in B50, which is the branch ID for campus. And then I'm going to click Run. Now the query is showing me only branch ID B50. If I happen to change a record, it actually will take place in the data table. So if I change this one, for example, and add an extra 0, so account ID 1020, and press Enter, they just got a considerable boost to their balance. Now they're 12,000 instead of 1,200. I'm going to close, and I'll say yes to saving it. And we're going to go to the Accounts table. And I'm looking for record 1020. And you can see that the balance on record 1020 is now $12,000. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and I will add a new record, 1028, and I'll press the Tab key. 30005 is the customer ID. B50, whoops, I should do capital B, is the branch ID. 8,000 is the balance, and 8/4/2018 is the open date. So now I've created another account ID here. I will save that and close it. I'm going to go back and run my query, and when I say run it, I mean double click it. And there's that new record we just created. We're going to make a change to this particular query, so we're going to create a new one so we don't erase the original. So if I click File and Save As, I can select Save Object As, and then Save As, and I'm going to enter the query name Accounts from Campus Branch Sorted. Accounts from Campus Branch Sorted. And I'll click OK. It's starts me out in sheet view, but I need to go to design view because I'm going to make some changes to this design. I'm going to change the account ID ascending sort order to not sorted. But in the customer ID field, I do want to sort ascending. In the balance, I'm going to, oh no, yeah, it was the balance, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm going to sort ascending. And I'm going to click Run. And now we can see that we sort by account ID, then balance. Actually, I'm sorry, no, customer ID. We are sorting by customer ID first, and then balance. Now we already saved this, so we don't need to save again. If we did, when we click the X, it'll tell us, do you want to save this? And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go to page 788. Now what we're going to do now is experiment with multi-table queries. Everybody with me? Did your tables link together okay? This is the part where they have to link together. Let's right-click the Accounts from Campus Branch query, and we can open it up in Design View. Then we're going to drag the branch table into the Accounts from Campus branch. Next, if I click the location field, I can drag it, and I create now a multi-table here because I've dragged from the branch table location. And this one we want to have positioned to the right of the balance, which is correct. Now the branch ID, we're not going to need anymore because we now can see the location. However, in order for this query to work right, we really do need it, you see, because we're still going to be using this criteria. It's just not going to show up anymore. Does that make sense? Then we're going to delete the B50 criteria from branch ID. And over here, under location, now that I've deleted that, I do need to put a criteria in here. And the criteria that we're looking for is campus. So account ID, we're going to make not sorted. And then in the balance for accounts, our sort will be descending. And then I'm going to click Run. So a little bit different query here. Now we have balances descending. So that means the highest balance goes first. and our location is listed here. Now I'm going to change this name, so I'm going to do File, Save As again. Oops, sorry, my mistake. Save Object As. And then Save As. And I'm going to change this one. And I'm going to put balance descending. So I'm creating a brand new query. So now over here, if I hover my mouse, I've got a new query. It says accounts from campus branch, balance descending. I'm going to go back to view. And we actually don't need the branch ID. So if I wanted to, and I highlight this entire column here by clicking that gray area. Everybody see the black downward arrow? I'm going to click there, and then I can press the delete key and get rid of it altogether. But we're going to do a little bit more. I'm going to click on customers and drag the customer table over as well. I'm going to take the last name field and I'm going to drag it next to account ID. Okay, so if I release it, it inserts last name between account ID and customer ID. Now I can select customer ID and I can delete that column. And I'm going to click Run again. Now I'm sorting by last name, but still with the balance descending. I'm going to click File, Save As, Save Object As, and then Save As again. And I'm going to change this one to Accounts from Campus Branch. And I'm going to put on here last name. Okay. Then I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to save one more time. All right, now we're going to create another multi-table query. I'm going to click the Create tab. And I can go ahead and close this particular query I have open, so I have no tabs open here. And I'm going to click Query Design. We used Wizard before. This time we're going to go for Query Design. We have to select the tables that we want in this particular query. So I'm going to double click Branch, Accounts, and Customers. I don't know why they didn't just say to do them all three. They have them in a different order. But anyway, I'm going to click Close. I've got the three I need added. Next, I'm going to double click Last Name, double click First Name. I will double click the balance, and I'm going to double click Location. And you can see that the order of the fields added is exactly the same as the order that we just clicked. Last name, first name, balance, location. And we're going to go to balance, and in criteria we're going to put in the less than symbol, less than or equal to $1,000, which is just the number 1,000. It's very hard to see probably back there, but the less than symbol is above the comma symbol. Right there. Okay. So it says to go ahead and save it, and we're going to give it a name, balance 1,000 or less. And I'll click OK. I'm going to run it. Run the query, and it's going to show me anybody with an account that has a balance under $1,000. I could go back to design view and say, well, you know what, actually we're going to change the balance requirements now to $2,000. And on the, actually we don't have it here, so I'm going to double click the open date field and add that in. And go to criteria. I'm going to type the greater than symbol. Whoops. Greater than or equal to 1/1/2011. Right there. And I'm going to go ahead and click save again. I really shouldn't have done that. I should have saved it as a different name. Well, anyway, I'm going to do save as and save it as a different name, but I'll do save object, save as, and then this one really would have been open date 2011 or later. If you overwrote your other query, don't worry about it. And I'll click OK. And I'm going to run it. So now I have balances that are greater than, or excuse me, anything less than 2,000 that were opened after 1/1/2011. I could go back to design view, and in the sort for open date I could change it to ascending and then run it again, and now I have it by date ascending. And I'm going to click save one more time. And we're on the home stretch here. We have one more query we're going to do. I'm going to close this one and click the Create tab. And I'm going to Query Design again. And I want to add the Accounts table and the Customers table. And then I'll click Close. Looks like my Accounts table didn't add. Let's see if I'm able to add another table. Yeah. So I want Accounts and customers. And I'm going to drag it down. I don't really need to, but I figure I might as well. Okay, so I'm going to double click customer ID and oh, I actually have customers open twice, don't I? I'm going to remove that table and go back to select because I need accounts. That's not what I want. Show table. There we go. Then I'm going to double click account ID and I'm going to run this query. You should have about 28 records. So we have the customer ID and account ID. This in and of itself is not very useful. So if I click view, I can see if I can let me see everything here. In the show hide group, where is, there it is. I'm going to click totals. And now we have a group by option. I'm going to go to the sort option. Oh no, I'm sorry. Group by. And I'm going to change group by to count. So the account ID is going to group everything by count. And if we run it, you'll see what it's going to do. Now we're grouping by number of accounts for each customer ID. So instead of showing all 28 accounts, now we're showing the customer ID and how many accounts they have open. We haven't saved this query, so if I click save, it's going to ask me for a name. I'm going to put number of customer accounts and click OK. And I'm ready to close this, and that completes tutorial 2. So we're all set. So I'm going to close the database.